fandom spaces are not new to drama or discourse. In fact, we kind of thrive in it. We're used to it. From lawsuits from creators to fanfiction writers to unhealthy parasocialism to anti and pro-shipping discourse. We weathered it all. But there's something new shaking up the entire world, honestly. The world of fandoms and fanfiction very much included, and that's, of course, generative AI. I talked about Gen AI and witch hunts in a different capacity around Book Talk, and you can kind of see that video for a description of Gen AI and my thoughts about it. At this point, I assume everyone kind of knows the basic rundown of what generative AI is and what it does and the harm it could cause. I want to talk about the AI fanfiction controversy, and the reason why I specifically want to talk about it is because I feel like these fandom issues often get pushed to the mainstream media or normal people or even other fandoms, and there's very little much in way of an attempt made to understand the fans or fandom culture. I want to see someone covering stories like this who is part of fandom culture, who's enmeshed in it, grew up in it, who's been down in the trenches, who was there when the ancient texts were written. And hey, that's me. I love fandom and I love fan fiction and the culture around it. I don't really buy into these fans are just toxic or this particular fandom is the most toxic and should be avoided at all costs. And I want to give fandom a fair shake with some nuance and also kind of act as someone who can understand and take the rose-colored glasses off and also be real. All of those things at the same time. Part 1, the AI witch hunt. So for context, I started off extremely wary of Gen AI witch hunts because, as I explained in the other Gen AI video, I think that people are overconfident in their ability to identify AI. I certainly didn't feel confident in my own abilities. I've had loved ones be falsely accused, and we all know AI checkers are garbage and useless and don't work even a little bit. So when people started naming and shaming fanfiction authors, I didn't participate or approve of it at all. This practice feels like a net negative for the community. Obviously, it's going to make people delete their works, leave the fandom, stop writing for fear of being accused. And if you are accused, that can have serious ramifications for your reputation. The vitriol around AI use was significant back then, and it still is. When my best friend was accused, it was quickly resolved because other people jumped in with compelling reasons why it wasn't AI art. But the whole experience was just bad. People pointed out mistakes in her work that were actually just human choices, and they made her feel bad about her own art. And now she has to go to the effort of recording her process for everything, which takes up space and time and energy, and it's exhausting. And look, I get the concerns. We're not going into it in detail, but the environmental impact, the stealing of arts and jobs. I experienced a little bit of this myself when I tried to get a map commissioned for a Monster of the Week campaign setting I was writing. Almost all the inquiries were people stealing art or using Gen AI when I specifically asked for human art. This is like far up on the moral bankrupt scale to me because this is straight up scamming, right? I'm paying you to provide something and you are giving me something I could have just done in 1 second myself for free. Not to mention how much trouble I could have gotten in if I published the map alongside my work and people realized it was AI. And this is all true and it's gonna remain true, but I have to admit that after I have become more familiar with generative AI, particularly writing, I do feel like in some cases it's just so obvious and I can just tell. And I know realistically you can never be 100% certain, and that's why I never name these authors. But there are patterns and tells, and I'm not just talking about using the M dash, okay? Like, I won't say it's 100% certain, but in my heart, at least one of the ones I was reading recently, I was 100% certain. Because it does feel like while you can say AI is trained off fan fiction, English second language speakers just write like that. All the other million things I see people say online, which very well could be true. But, sometimes the repetition of certain elements, not a single human soul would write like this that excessively to the point where passages stop making sense after a while and things get forgotten, things get repeated. If I showed you examples of what I was talking about, I feel like you would get it. But I'm not here to call anyone in particular out, no matter how certain I am. Now, I was there specifically in the Heated Rivalry fanfiction subreddit when the discussions about AI use in fics started really kicking off. And to be clear, the Heated Rivalry fans and fandom gets picked on a lot, and I'm not interested in adding to that. This definitely happens in all of the popular fandoms, but I'm just speaking truth here, right? These were events that I was actually there to witness. There were quickly rules established against naming and shaming specific authors you believe to have used Gen AI in their works, which makes perfect sense, especially considering at the time there was no reliable way of truly sussing that out. People were still interested in the topic though, because the anti-AI sentiment was still very strong in the community, as it is in most creative spaces. There was one thread where the user wanted to avoid AI works, so they asked people in the comments how they can tell. Some people talked about passing names in DMs. People gave the advice on how to tell in the comments without naming anyone in particular, usually with the caveat that these tells alone are also used by human authors. Even this was shut down pretty quickly, and the subreddit kind of reverted to not mentioning AI use at all, especially when high-profile and beloved fanfiction authors started speaking out and even removing their fanfic from sites like Archive of Our Own, citing bullying and harassment, criticism, and AI accusations being the primary motivators. This was a huge deal for the Heated Rivalry fandom, for that specific subreddit, and probably for a lot of fandoms who were experiencing similar things. There was talk about how toxic the Heated Rivalry fandom was, how these authors had been treated terrible and horribly wrong, how entitled fans were, and how we completely lost proper fandom etiquette. How dare anyone even think they might be using AI, let alone accuse them of it? There was serious discussion about how we had a responsibility to clean up the fandom, and if you dared say anything against any of these authors, it was met with pretty heated rebuttal, including anyone expressing sadness about the decision to remove their favorite story or question these authors in any way. And in a twist of events, the AI accusers became public enemy number one for a while. The witch hunters became the witch hunties, if you will. Part 2, the new drama. That became the status quo for a hot minute. These authors were often fiercely anti-AI, and it kind of became a thing where we would eagerly wait for updates about another author removing their works, or hopefully someone maybe coming back, and providing an update about returning and putting their fics back up. There was, after all, no surefire way of telling, so it was best just not give in to the messiness. That is, there was no surefire way until now. Recently, a user called John Doe on X created a custom AO3 site skin that detects evidence of Claude AI usage in fanfiction, and they found it in multiple popular fics in the Heated Rivalry fandom, and also in other popular fandoms, to be clear, including fics by authors who had fervently denied using AI. I don't personally know a lot about coding or how that whole thing works, honestly, but apparently when you copy and paste content directly from Claude into AO3, it apparently leaves behind code in the HTML. You can find it, and John Doe found it. He talked about specific high-profile works, many of whom were pretty heavily involved in the previous drama. The fics and the author names are out there. You can easily find them if you look for it. And this is not the unreliable generative AI checkers of times past. This is verifiable proof. You have the code or you don't. But to note, this only impacts authors using Claude when directly posted into AO3, so there are definitely a lot of AI users who didn't get caught by this skin. So this is ultimately proof that specific fanfiction authors were using Claude in their works. This isn't proof that someone who doesn't have this HTML code is not using AI, just to be clear. So far, the reaction has been pretty heavy. There's not as strong a reluctance to shut down this specific way of calling out authors as we've seen before. People feel betrayed, used, manipulated, lied to, and for good reason. I think it's important to point out that this drama has gone beyond just authors using AI in fan fiction, which people are already incredibly against, but has extended to playing the victim at the expense of others and throwing other members under the bus to be accused of toxicity, bullying, and more, when they know full well the entire time they did exactly what they claimed to be so against and exactly what they were being accused of. Allegedly, several authors even faked their own deaths via taking their own lives to escape accountability and to direct hatred at their bullying, witch-hunting accusers. This is something that we've seen happen in fandom spaces before. I don't have exact proof of this exact claim despite spending a bit of time looking. If you know anything more about this situation, let me know, please. I am curious. Part 3. What now? As a result of this absolute bombshell tossed into the fandom spaces, many of these authors have admitted to AI use now. Sometimes in a "it wasn't me, it was my editor" type way, but still. It's interesting that the editor defense is cropping up so frequently. It mirrors a pattern we've seen in other communities where accountability is shifted to a faceless helper when things go wrong. Many of them now have had the HTML signs removed their fix completely, or gave apology or other excuses in author's notes and left the fic up, now tagged with the use of Gen AI. And this is the part of the video where I'm about to say things that is gonna make no one happy, because on one hand, AI in fanfiction is a problem. Ethically, creatively, environmentally, the scrapping of our work, the environmental costs, the potential to replace human creativity, these are real concerns. On the other hand, the witch hunts are also a problem. AI checkers are notoriously bad. Human writers are being hurt. Writers are being harassed based on vibes, and I can just tell, and they used an M dash. And the people doing the accusing are often so confident in their abilities that they don't even consider they might be wrong. This situation, however, we are confronted with beloved authors and community members being exposed with real, tangible proof, named and shamed, and we have to decide how we respond to this. I think there is a hierarchy of morality here that actually matters and no one is talking about because we all hate AI so much. But truly, at the top of the moral hierarchy is big corporations using AI to be greedy and not hire human artists when they can certainly afford it to. No doubt about it, these are the real villains. There's really no excuse there. It's just about maximum profits at the cost of everything else, beyond what was ever even needed. Below that is people who take my money when I specifically asked for a human artist, but actually used AI. Like what happened to me when I tried to commission my map and kept getting generative AI trash instead of the human-made art I specifically requested. And then this is the part people don't want to talk about. At the very bottom of this hierarchy is fan fiction, because it's free food, so to speak. It's not taking money from anyone. It's not replacing a paid job. Now, does this mean that there isn't a sanctity of art issue and all the other ethical issues we've already talked about? Of course not. Definitely all that is still in play. Some fanfiction are genuinely masterpieces, but there's a difference between someone using AI to write a fic and a corporation using AI to replace an entire art department. And yet, I keep coming back to this. The lying is the part that gets to me. The playing the victim while secretly doing the thing you're supposedly against. The fueling of the fire of the harassment and the controversy in the fandom. Because you can just not position yourself so far and intensely on one side of the debate if you clearly aren't holding yourselves to the same standards, right? You could just make the choice to be quiet and not yap all over the internet and get dragged so far into the discourse. But there's pressure to perform the right kind of fandom, just like there's pressure to perform the right kind of activism online. and we are so in each other's business, it's like living in a surveillance state. People are saying authors just need to disclose. People have a right to be able to choose to engage with the Gen AI created works or not. But it's not that easy, I think. Obviously, there's a market for AI and spaces where it's more accessible. But from what I've seen, there's also very real vitriol. If you disclose, you get harassed. If you don't disclose and you get caught, you also get harassed. Like, people are angry and disgusted, and there's no moral hierarchy that matters to a lot of people when it comes to generative AI, right? I don't think they're just gonna leave those disclosing the use of it alone. And I also get the impulse to say, just don't use AI then. But unfortunately, we're past that point. The technology exists, people are using it. The question is, how do we create a community where people feel safe enough to be honest? AO3 has a tag now, created using generative AI, which at least lets you filter that shit out. But is it enough? A tag doesn't stop the scraping, a tag doesn't stop the soulless vibe of it all. Here's where I land, and it's a nuanced take. So if you came here for black and white thinking, I'm sorry to disappoint you. 1, AI in fanfiction is bad. Ethically, creatively, environmentally, it's trained on our work without our consent. It's soulless, it's not fandom. 2, AI witch hunts are also bad. They hurt real human writers. They create a culture of paranoia and accusation. They're often based on false confidence and flimsy evidence. 3, the lying and manipulation is worse than the AI use. If you use AI, at least be honest about it. Or if you can't be honest about it for fear of harassment, maybe just shut up about it at least and stay in your lane. Don't play the victim. Don't weaponize your fandom against people who are rightfully suspicious. 4, we need to separate the morality of AI from the culture of fandom. These are 2 different conversations that are getting tangled up. 5, we all need to be kinder to each other, to ourselves, to the authors who are trying their best in an impossible situation. I've seen posts about this filled with rightful anger. I've seen people posting reminders that these authors are still people that made a big mistake. Yes, but they're not the soulless, unfeeling machines. I think we can still hold some compassion even for those who mess up. And that's it. If you have a different take, I'm happy to discuss it in the comments as long as we remain respectful. Please share nuances you have considered or your own thoughts about this situation. Just like I said at the beginning of this video, fandom has always been messy. We've always had discourse. This is a new one for sure, but I don't think this is the thing that breaks us either. We will always make art in fandom, sometimes beautiful masterpieces, sometimes really terrible stuff, but there will always be human art in these spaces. I don't think that's something that's ever going to go away. The community is messy and weird and sometimes very, very online, but it's ours, and ultimately that's worth fighting for. I understand why people feel so protective about these spaces. If you like this video, give it a like, subscribe. I make tabletop role-playing game content about comics, horror, all sorts of media analysis content, and I'm pretty enmeshed in fandom culture, so I'm probably gonna do plenty of fandom content as well. Stay safe and stay weird. Bye.